my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked as we turn our attention to the powerful forces of nature that have recently reshaped our coastal landscapes with spectacular effect. Now, the spring tide, a phenomenon known for its awe-inspiring beauty on one hand, has taken a very destructive turn, as you can see on social media, leaving a trail of damage and unfortunately tragedy along our eastern and western Cape shores. As we grapple with the aftermath of this very natural event, we are joined by Craig Lambinon, the spokesperson for the incredible National Sea Rescue Institute, or known as the NSRI, to shed some light on the extent of the damage and the response efforts. Craig, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for doing your job, first of all. It really does get added impetus over these times. We have seen some incredible visuals of the power of nature, especially along the eastern and western Cape coastlines. Can you talk us through the extent, the severity of what we are seeing?
Yeah, so as you can see from all of the videos that have been posted on social media, a lot of people may feel that they were caught unawares because the storm surge went to breach places that aren't normally breached, even in an abnormally high tide. You see on social media how vehicles are literally floating in water in car parks. People being swept away or swept across from their porches. So it has been something quite phenomenal. But we must say we commend the South African Weather Services for the alerts that they put out. It was predicted that this cold front, the gale force winds and rough sea conditions would impact everywhere from Alexander Bay on the west coast all the way around to north of KwaZulu-Natal. So it's something we were ready for it. Some of our rescue stations have been affected by this. We're busy with mopping up operations this morning, but we can commend everybody for being on high alert, ready to respond to emergencies, NSR volunteers, and obviously the emergency services and the police. You really did a phenomenal job in keeping people safe. Sadly, there has been loss of life, and there have been some injuries, but we can commend everybody for limiting that. But our condolences and thoughts are with the family who have lost a loved one because of this weather phenomenon.
Yeah, and we certainly echo those words. Our thoughts and prayers do go out to all those affected at the more extreme end of the scale. And certainly when loss of life comes to bear, it really does drive home the necessity of being prepared and having organizations linked together in the way that you are right now. So that being said, let's lean on this network right now. I know that there are still areas that could experience extreme weather right now. What are those hotspots? What are the areas where people need to be extra careful and to shore up their response efforts?
So this stage right now, as we speak, Richards Bay is still affected. So that weather front has moved up towards Richards Bay, as was forecast by the South African Weather Service. Alkenstrand and Palm Beach were affected last night, and we're still seeing some rough sea conditions in the Richards Bay area. We are continuing to appeal to the public to be cautious around the coastline. That's including the high tide that you can expect late this afternoon. So building up towards high tide, we're still experiencing the tail end of the spring tide, and brought together with the storm conditions that we've experienced and the rough sea conditions that are still at sea or deep sea. You can still expect some effect around the coastline, but it's not going to be anything, as far as we understand, like what we've seen over this weekend. Yeah,
I know this was a perfect storm, to use that cliche, but a lot of different elements combining at the same time, very much like your response efforts. I know that you are working kind of in real time, dealing with the aftermath, but also being prepared for what could be happening and what is happening right now. So how do those response efforts, what do they look like, and what support do you need?
Yeah, so at this stage, it's really the disaster risk management and municipalities around the coastline that are dealing with damage to properties, damage to people's assets, erosion of sand dunes around the coastline, erosion of roadways or roadways that have been affected, bridges that have been affected. So that they are well prepared for this. NSRI and the emergency services, we have the luxury of being on high alert 24 hours
All the
a day,
time.
every day of the year. So it's pretty much, it's nothing unusual for us. When the call comes, we're ready to respond, and it's a massive communication network and cooperation between all of the services. Just to give you one example, with the Gordons Bay on Saturday afternoon, that was the first real indication that we got of what we could expect, and that was a massive response. But only 3 services were physically on the scene, and was actually 4 if you include the Gordons Bay Community Neighbourhood Watch, GB Med Security Ambulance Services, NSRI Gordons Bay, and the police. Now, there was a massive response backing them up that were on their way, and that's Western Cape Government Health, EMS, Fire and Rescue Services, law enforcement.
Brilliant.
Even the SkyMed rescue helicopter that was on a high alert to respond, but they all slowed down their response as it became clearer that there were no injuries, and they all returned to base. But it just goes to show the cooperation we have
For
and the
sure.
communication that we have between all of these services. That is, we can be really proud as South Africans to have this kind of emergency services. Even the private ambulance services are involved in this.
I love it, Craig. It's not our first rodeo.
Proud of that.
Yeah, no, I love the fact.
100%.
Yeah, I'm going to thank you for the
absolutely
work
right.
that you do. So we're breaking up a little bit there. But Craig, I understand that you guys literally put your lives on the line. But the fact that we are prepared as a unit, as a network, to be able to deal with these, thank you so much to Craig and all of the emergency services, everyone working on a municipal level. Thank you for your response. I would suggest, as a fellow South African, maybe look for people who need help in that sense. But in terms of the emergency services, stay connected to the weather service first so we can be forewarned about more of these weather occurrences. But great to see our emergency services working together like this. Thank you, Craig.